Watchmen is one of the most celebrated comics in history. Written by Alan Moore and illustrated by Dave Gibbons, DC has never wanted us to forget the sheer brilliance that is Watchmen, especially with The Button a few months ago and Doomsday Clock starting at the end of the year. Watchmen is also considered the ultimate deconstruction of superhero comics. With Watchmen, Alan Moore dives heavily into the history of comics, even when it comes to its root as a piece of deconstruction literature. For those who have never read the story, the plot follows a group of former heroes, some in retirement, some still acting as vigilantes, and some just basking off the riches it brought them. When a former member of the Watchmen is murdered, the rest take it upon themselves to learn why, as well as deal with their own everyday lives. The plot has never really been the draw for everyone. It's the little explorations of the characters and the background stories and little things like that that really catch people's attention and why the story became so loved. When pitching the story, Moore wanted to use the old Charleston Comics heroes that DC had recently acquired, but the only problem is DC had plans for these characters, so he was turned down. But alongside Dave Gibbons, he created his own characters, but the parallels are still pretty similar. It's kind of hard not to see sometimes. I mean, Dr. Manhattan is the Atom, Night Owl 2 is the Blue Beetle, the Comedian's the Peacemaker, Rorschach's the Question, and Ozymandias is Thunderbolt. Silk Spectre sort of exists in this grey area where she's a combination of several other characters, but most of them come out of the old Charleston comics. The history of the Watchmen universe even mirrors real-world comic book history. Superheroes came into prominence before the war, thriving through, only to begin to fade in years after. The Black Freighter comics within the story even acts as stand-ins as the EC horror comics, which kind of came into prominence in place of superheroes for a while. What's funny though is looking at the inspiration behind Watchmen and what made it a deconstruction. To deconstruct something is to tear it apart, to reveal or expose the subject's weakness, to understand and explore its flaws, inconsistencies and tropes, to literally take it to pieces. While many point to Watchmen as the superhero example of it, it's not the first. The three key pieces that predate it, and Moore himself has even brought up, are Super Duper Man from Mad Magazine, Man of Steel Woman of Kleenex by Larry Niven, and Superfolk by Roger Mayer, coming out in 1953, 1969, and 1977 respectively. The clearest parallel that can be seen is Man of Steel Woman of Kleenex, which is the strangest title I will ever repeatedly say. It was a more satirical take on deconstruction that questioned, well, Superman's sex life. Why would he be attracted to humans when he's practically a god? To see Moore's take on this article, you don't have to look much further than Dr. Manhattan and Silk Spectre 2. Dr. Manhattan is practically a god, and Silk Spectre 2 is just frankly a human. So Watchmen is kind of inevitable. Everything that makes up the Watchmen is history. It is a culmination of history, popular thinking at the time, and was brought together by just the right writer and the right artist who happened to see all of this and wanted to do their own take. And it's become beloved and really just discussed at length. If that kind of stuff interests you, then I definitely recommend the book Minutes to Midnight, 12 Essays on Watchmen. I loved this book. I even showed it briefly in the last video, and it really made me rethink how I look at Watchmen. I'm not the biggest Watchmen fan, but I've always kind of found it interesting. If you like Watchmen, then really just try it. It's a really good book, and I'm pretty sure you can pick it up for like £10, which I will probably need to now convert to American, considering my view states that most of you are in America. Hi, America!